Brilliance Audio presents Bury What We Cannot Take by Kirstin Chen, performed by Emily Wu Zeller. When San followed her brother inside, she knew something was wrong. The flat was too quiet. Moya, who always met them at the door to take their satchels, was nowhere to be found. Her brother shrugged and dropped his satchel on the floor on his way to the dining room, and San did the same. Usually their grandmother would already be seated in the chair closest to the kitchen door, but this afternoon, though the pink pastry box sat on the revolving stand in the center of the table, Grandma's chair was empty. Moya emerged from the kitchen with the tea tray. Her eyes were bloodshot, as though she'd rubbed them with her fists. "Where's my grandma?" San asked. Moya busied herself with the teapot and cups. "In her room, I think." San's brother asked, "Is she ill?" San asked, "What's wrong with your eyes?" Moya waggled her head, halfway between a nod and a shake, and retreated to the kitchen. San's brother lifted the lid of the pastry box, and together they peered in, as though its contents would provide clues. They were the same petits fours that Grandma had Moya purchase daily from the baker who'd apprenticed with a real Frenchman, before all the foreigners had left Drum Wave Islet. Her brother was pinching out the chocolate eclair when they heard the crash of shattering glass. San's hands clapped over her ears, as though compelled by some outside force. The eclair landed on the table with a soft splat. Moya appeared in the kitchen doorway with Cook close behind her. "I'll go check," her brother said, pushing back his chair. "You stay here." San pushed back her chair too. 12 years old to her 9, her brother was constantly forbidding her from going places with him and his friends. Sometimes when he was particularly grumpy, he made her follow several paces behind when they walked home from school. This time, however, she wouldn't let him bully her. She stood and squared her shoulders, and he scowled but said no more. They tiptoed out of the dining room, through the empty drawing room, and stopped before the study. The sliding door had been pulled almost shut, though not all the way. Inside the room, something thudded to the floor. Her brother held his finger over his lips, and San pulled a face. What did he expect her to do? Burst into song? He planted himself before the sliver of space between door and wall, blocking her view. Her nose was running. Her grandmother scolded her for always catching cold, as if it were something she could control, and she wiped her nostrils on her sleeve so she wouldn't have to sniffle. She tugged on the back pocket of her brother's uniform trousers, and at last he stepped aside. San held back a gasp. On the opposite end of the room, Grandma knelt before the framed photograph of Grandpa on the family altar, her face buried in her hands to muffle her sobs. And then San noticed the shards of glass strewn about the dark walnut floor, the claw and long wooden handle of the hammer partially hidden by Grandma's skirt. Above Grandpa's portrait, in the very center of the wall, the chairman's gleaming face continued to preside over the room, smiling benevolently at all who gazed upon him, oblivious to the spiderweb of cracks that scarred him. San's fingers brushed the door handle, and then she pulled back her hand. She turned to her brother, but his face was pale, his eyes clouded with worry. He dragged her back to the dining room. "You're hurting me," she said. When he let go, she saw that his fingertips had left red spots on her skin. She winced dramatically and massaged her forearm. "Sorry," he said quietly, even though he no longer had to whisper. He leaned in close. "I need you, please, for once, to listen to me." San stopped rubbing her arm. "You didn't see anything. Neither of us did. Is that clear?" San nodded. "Nothing at all." She nodded again. "We came home from school, and they told us Grandma was resting in her room, and we had our afternoon tea as usual." "All right," San said, annoyed. Moya came out with a broom and dustpan.
Does Grandma need help?
In unison, Sansan and her brother shouted, "No!" Moya narrowed her eyes. "Leave her alone," her brother said. "She'll call if she needs help."